Welcome to the Train Your Brain podcast. We are your hosts, Ed and Brittany Holmes, and we are the founders and coaches of a company called Axios Coaching. And we started this podcast, Train Your Brain, to give you a little bit of what we do with people one-on-one in your back pocket.
Yeah, the whole goal of Axios Coaching is to help you get unstuck. And unstuck, why? To help you create a meaningful life. This mixture of fulfillment, purpose, and adventure. So during this podcast, we're going to cover an infinite amount of topics that allow us to keep moving our lives forward into something that's meaningful and matters to us.
Yeah, let's get into it. So for today's episode, this is a topic that we personally have been kind of working and integrating into our daily life at a deeper level. This isn't something we are both very much good. That's really correct English. Yeah. We're very good at grinding, like putting together an action plan and making stuff happen and getting stuff done.
Yeah.
And we've built 2 businesses because of that. And what we found is we lost our play. Like we quickly found that we were separated from the things that really brought us joy, except for on like we'd work really, really hard and then like finally let ourselves take a break and like go outside and adventure.
Well, but crash into a break.
Yeah.
Well, and even I think we can talk about our journey with play as we unfold this. The thing that we've really started to lean on is there's being and doing.
Right.
And it's not which one's more important, it's which one comes first.
Yeah.
And when our beingness is being fed, when we're really centered on the things that bring the highest and best out of us, then doing is a natural flow from that.
Right. Which that is a really big concept that we will start to break down in the coming episodes.
Yeah, it's attention to be managed. It's a big one. And play is a beingness thing.
Right.
Play, it's interesting. Like, we give the people we coach an assignment to go play.
Yeah.
And it's actually traditionally the hardest thing because then they go, well, what should I do? And we go, we don't know. Our favorite definition of play is the frivolous act of being.
Right.
Like, what's it look like for you to be spontaneous, be in the moment, to be enthusiastic about your spontaneity, like to actually be excited that the spontaneity isn't a chore,
right? To
be interactive with the thing that you're doing.
Or not writing stories about the fact that you're taking the time to play and be spontaneous and do something that is, this is where I have struggled with play, is it feels non-productive. Because it is. Well, that's the point of play.
Yeah, so play is a behavior activity carried out with the goal of amusement, enjoyment, or fun.
Yeah.
There is no goal to it. Like, the goal is amusement, enjoyment, and fun.
Right. And I think this is important to just call out and recognize, like, we don't realize, especially for those of us that are naturally high achieving, naturally more like doers, that we get so caught up in that wheel. And it's not like
we call it the hamster wheel.
Yeah, it's not like we're intentionally, at least, again, I'll go back to my story. It's not like I was intentionally like, I want to live my life where I'm constantly just like hammering the next thing and I never give myself time to play. It's not this like conscious decision, right? It is, we end up in this habit loop, really, of our day-to-day life, especially Monday through Friday, is about work. And you get through the day to get through work, and then you get home and you kind of crash into your evening and like do the things necessary to, get ready basically to wake up and do it again the next day. And that's how we end up in this hamster wheel of doing.
Well, yeah, when we start as kids, we live with the assumption that like 100% of what we do is our choice.
Right.
Right? Like, there's no obligation. Like, we're free.
Can't wait to just be an adult and like make all my own choices.
Yeah, and then as we age, that begins to feel frivolous because of the obligations that we take on, right? Like, we have 40 hours a week or 60 or 80 or 100 to work. And then there's relationships and there's bills to pay and there's things to do and kids to take care of. And we start with like 100% of the pie is ours to choose how we do it. And then we convince ourselves that it is morally right that only 2% of the pie is what we have left at the end.
Yeah. Which, don't you feel like that happens along the way out of comparison?
Yeah,
like
I think
we see what people around us.
Yeah, it's definitely the cultural norm to be on the hamster wheel.
Right.
And the weird thing is like the other side of it that we're starting to see is like the adventure van, like professional, like full-time traveler making just enough to be on the road, right? And I tell the executives I coach, my goal is not that you spend 4 hours meditating and 4 hours surfing every day. My goal is that you live an integrated life where beingness is sustainably fueling the doing that you feel most like you doing.
Right.
There's this proverb we came across that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Right.
It reminds me of Johnny Tsunami.
Yeah. Oh, great
The dad,
movie.
the dad.
Disney Channel classic.
Yeah.
If you don't know it, you're missing out.
The dad in Johnny Tsunami has lost all of his being. He's lost his play. Like, the doing is the noble thing.
Well, and because of that, he made it bad that his son loved surfing so much.
Yeah, loved to play, loved to be, right? And so, again, we're not trying to hold doing and being in contradiction. It's which one comes first.
Right. Which is funny when you think about it, because how many times, at least for us growing up, how many times were we told to go outside and play?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like, as a child, it's expected. Common. And we're going to talk about in a minute, like, the benefits of formation that we get as children when we play. Play is still an invaluable teacher for us as adults.
Right.
But we've nobilized that adults work and children play.
Right, yeah. To play is for children.
So I want to end this section. One of our favorite poems is The Call of the Wild by Robert Frost.
Book's right back here.
Right back here.
Robert Service.
Oh, Robert Service. Sorry. Robert Frost is another one. Robert Service. But this is the last stanza of The Call of the Wild.
So good.
They have cradled you in custom, and they have primed you with their preaching. They have soaked you in convention through and through. They have put you in a showcase. You're a credit to their teaching, but can't you hear the wild? It's calling you. Let us probe the silent places. Let us seek what luck betide us. Let us journey to a lonely land I know. There's a whisper on the night wind, and there's a star agleam to guide us. And the wild is calling. Let us go. So this idea that cultural convention is you work very hard so then you can have a week or two of play a year.
Right. Yeah, they've cradled you in custom.
Yeah.
The custom of our culture is you work 40 plus hour weeks and you come home and you take care of the house or you take care of the family, and you're so disconnected from get so disconnected from our beingness as a human. Yeah.
And when we're saying, the other thing that I have found as an adult is play is this long form extravagant thing, right? So like I've just taken up fly fishing. And so
I want to call out, I feel like fly fishing is your 7th hobby now.
Oh yeah, I love a hobby.
You do love a hobby. I think you love a hobby because you're a gearhead.
Chad and I, one of my great friends, Chad and I, have both agreed that the reason we love new hobbies is because we get to buy the gear that goes with the hobby.
But maybe it's time to cycle out some of the older hobbies to make room for newer hobbies.
I have been.
That's true.
I have been. People were just picking up stuff from our house just now.
It's very true. We put a bunch of stuff up on the Buy Nothing page.
Yeah, I'm feeling attacked at the moment.
You feel attacked?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just kidding.
But fly fishing.
Standing outside in my driveway practicing my cast is play.
Into hula hoops.
Which
is really funny.
Yeah, I went to the dollar store and bought hula hoops. I looked up how people
little girl hula hoops.
They're American flag. There's one pink and sparkly one. The other ones are American flags.
Yeah.
But I picked play. It can be these micro moments throughout the day. It's like walking out in between meetings and playing with our dogs.
Yeah. Or we just watched that show from Huckberry, right? And he was like showcasing his office, and he works different places in his house, but his office is like where he goes when he needs to like do creative deep work. And the whole shelf behind him, which is similar to what we have set up here, he has all these little
knickknacks and toys.
Yeah, toys, little cars. And it's just a reminder, like, the people that we are really coming to admire, like, they exemplify play throughout their day. It's not just, oh, when I have time for the vacation or time to take the weekend trip, or, you know, I sit down with my kid and they're playing and so then I'm engaged. No, it's this personal integration throughout my day, not once in a while.
Yeah, often you'll have a puzzle out on our kitchen table and you'll wander over and put a couple pieces out, right? Or I love building Legos. So I have Legos in my closet.
Yeah, we're working on a new station over here on the side. For
in front of the window
Lego display.
for my Lego display. So let's talk about two things left to talk about. The benefits of play. And then let's talk about how we can begin to integrate play into our daily lives.
Yeah. Okay.
So first, there's personal and relational benefits to play, both in the immediate. Like, while we're in the act of playing, these are what we feel.
Right.
And then there's also long-form benefits to play as well.
100%. Yeah, so some of the things that we experience right away when we start to play, like, again, going back to the puzzles for me, one of the reasons I love playing puzzles, I guess that's what I'm doing. One of the reasons I love doing puzzles is it causes me to, like, get out of my head, stop thinking about all the things I have to do, and it really centers me in the moment. So what I find is, on a personal level, that, like, kind of immediately, like, removes any stressor that was on my mind of I have this task that needs to be done, whatever. So it reduces my stress, and then it gives me, like, this overall positive, rejuvenized, is that a word? Rejuvenized?
Rejuvenation.
Rejuvenation.
Well, and then relationally, we feel accepted and valued.
Right.
Like, even when I'm playing with myself, like, I'm taking care of myself. That's acceptance and value to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know why I just stumbled. But when you're dating someone, you're in essence, like, when you're planning dates and these times to come together and, like, do something special or do something fun, right? Like, you are playing. That's part of why you start to feel so close to someone that you're dating. It's because you're building these memories together. You're taking time to play and engage. And that's where you feel accepted and valued, because you have common interests and things. Like, if you start dating someone and they love hiking as much as you do, like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So we feel connected and valued, and then you begin to share emotion.
Yeah.
And shared emotion reminds you you're not alone. Right?
Yeah.
So playing by myself is important. I do that.
Right.
And, like, when Chad and I go fly fishing, there's this shared common experience. When you and I went for the hike yesterday, there's this shared common experience that reminds me I'm not alone. And then long-term outcomes.
Yeah.
Which I find so interesting, the state most of us are looking for is a byproduct of long-term consistent play.
Yeah.
Right?
But it is so counterintuitive.
So, like, reduced chronic stress, increased problem-solving skills, flexibility in thinking, improved overall mental health, and improved physical health, improved emotional well-being.
Huge.
Like, all these things that we're working so hard to get to are all the byproduct of daily exposure to play.
Yeah, and being.
Yeah.
Right? Which we're going to talk more about. But then relationally, it increases intimacy, trust, and security, right? Reduced conflict. This is really interesting. Like, we've seen this in couples that we coach, both, like, in premarital and then couples who've been together for a long time, is we can always tell, right? Like, when a couple's coming in for a session, whether it's they're on Zoom or in person, you can tell because they start either on, like, opposite sides of the screen together or, like, opposite sides of the couch. And it's interesting as we have gotten in the habit of, like, getting them to share stories or recall experiences they've had together, right? Where play was involved, how it does naturally reduce this conflict of something that feels so massive, or, like, you know, just this massive thing between them starts to shrink in terms of all of these experiences that they've shared together and the commonalities that they have.
Yeah.
Right? So that's huge. And then effective communication, and excitement and satisfaction. Like, if you find yourself in any relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a working relationship, any of that, where you feel like it's just gone stale and there's no spark left, like, I would encourage you to pause and ask yourself, when was the last time that we did something that felt like play together?
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time we went to a new restaurant? When was the last time we explored a new place outside together?
Well, we're getting into that. right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about cultivating play.
Sorry, I keep jumping ahead. I'm excited.
Last 5 minutes. Gotta focus.
Okay.
Last 5 minutes. Different ways we can cultivate play. Number 1, try something new.
Yes. This is something that I've been having a lot of the women that I'm coaching. So I find this a lot is very hard for women to do because women inherently wear just a lot of hats all at once. And so play is like foreign to our minds. And so one thing that I've started having them do is create what we call a joy jar or a play jar, where you just sit down, set the timer for like 15 minutes, and you write just on a blank piece of paper a list of anything you can think of that sounds fun to you. Like, doesn't have to cost money, doesn't have to require you to travel, like anything you can think of. Put it on a list, and then you cut those things into strips of paper, fold them up, put it in a jar. And then every time, like throughout the day, this is a habit I literally have people build in, which is surprisingly hard for us, is every day during one of your working breaks, you pull an item out of the jar and you do it. And it takes the choice out of it. 'Cause sometimes when we're trying to incorporate play into our day, it becomes, at least for me, became very cerebral of like, well, I've got to then decide what I'm doing and all the things. And this takes the choice out of it. So try something new.
Well, yeah, and that's also like doing quite literally something new.
Right.
Right? So part of the reason I'm enjoying fly fishing is I've literally never done anything like that before. Right? So Chad and I were fishing a couple weekends ago, and I spent more time catching trees than I did with my fly on the water. And yet it was so fun for both of us because we're both brand new to it.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't like this, oh my gosh, he's so much better than me and I'm holding someone back. It was like,
it allowed me to stay in the moment and allow it to be something that was exciting that I was learning.
Right.
Number 2, which you covered with the joy jar, is play daily. So what's the micro thing that I could do that is a frivolous act of being, this fun thing that I could do in the moment?
Like the puzzle. Like
a puzzle, like a coloring book, build a fort, watch a movie, whatever it is.
Go for a walk.
Yeah. Yeah. Forget about the goal.
Yes. This is, again, going back to those of us that are naturally high achievers and goal-oriented, right? Like this is about setting that aside.
The goal is to be.
Yeah, the goal is simply to see yourself play. Like celebrate. That feels like such a weird thing to call out and celebrate when you're first implementing this. But that's so huge to confirm to your mind that your value doesn't only come by what you check off on your to-do list every day.
Yeah, play is, yeah, exactly. Well, we were on this hike yesterday, which turned out to be a massive hike.
So much bigger. Why did we not read the comments on all trails?
I'm glad though, because I don't know if we would have tackled that one, which was good we did.
It was such a good one.
But we're on this hike, and I have this tendency, we got to get to the top. Because I can quickly turn it into a workout.
Yes.
And then I forget that the point of the hike is to enjoy.
Yeah.
Like the goal is not to get to the top the fastest. The goal is to spend time with you. We had Rogue, our dog, with us, and we sat at this fire lookout and were uncomfortable.
It was overwhelming.
Overwhelmed by the expanse and the silence. Like it was a spiritual moment for us as we were sitting there.
Yeah.
That was the goal. Was to have a moment like that, right? And so play is not about the goal. It's not how much you can play, how much play you can put within a certain hour.
How many miles you get in.
No, play is the frivolous act of being. It is doing something where the only goal is enjoyment, amusement, and fun.
Yeah, doing for doing's sake.
Doing for doing's sake.
Yeah.
Get curious.
Ooh, I love this one. So curiosity is something we naturally exhibit as a kid, right? Like as a kid, everything's new, everything's fresh. We don't know anything. We've never experienced any of it before. So we're naturally curious, right? Like we pick up things we've never seen before. Little kids put things in their mouth that they've never seen before, right? Like we're always asking questions. Well, why that? Why this? And then as we get older, like we spoke to before, our curiosity kind of falls to the wayside, I feel like, for most of us. And we stop asking questions. We stop being open to understanding things in a different way and seeing things in a different way. So get curious, like embrace what would being curious today about what's around me, who's around me, right? The environment I find myself in, what could that look like? And be open to new ideas, perspectives, experiences, right? Where you can learn and literally experience delight in things that seemed mundane and ordinary before, simply because you got curious.
Yeah. Sometimes learning for me is play. Like, I have been on this massive, like, fascination with whales.
Yeah.
That whales are real. Right? That orcas are the size of a school bus, and then, like, a short bus, and then swim up to 30 miles an hour.
And can project themselves out of
the
water.
Yeah, like it's
10 feet or something, however high.
Or did you know hummingbirds can fly as fast as they do because they get lift from the up and down stroke of their wing, but that's abnormal because their wing's not supposed to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And so they have special muscles that they've developed. Like, that's
like
play.
They're moving like a figure 8.
Yeah. So what, like, approaching life with this wonder and this awe is a huge part of that.
Yep.
And we're going over time. Last one. Okay. Get around playful people.
It's a big topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, get around playful people. Community is everything, right? Like, the way that we do life is indicative of the people that we spend the most time with. So if the only people around you are
serious,
very serious, and only goal-oriented and are really caught up in all the doing, this might be a good opportunity of like, okay, who do I know in my life that maybe I've avoided because they're so countercultural to me, right? Like, how do I get time with them? Like, there's certain people I can think of right now that are so good for us in our life because they naturally exhibit play just naturally. Like, it's not something that they need to intentionally build a habit around. And they're so good for us to spend time with because that starts to rub off on us, which is something we want to emulate more of. Yeah.
So, recap. Play is not just for kids.
No.
And the formation we received as kids from play is still beneficial to us as adults. And for most of us, especially when we feel jammed up, the solution is not to hammer more. It's actually, it might be to go play. Because it's when we're playing that we get creative solutions, we improve our ability to be flexible thinkers, we de-stress, we disconnect from the things that are overwhelming us. And the aim is to, and I'm fighting to say the goal because it's not about the goal.
I know.
The aim is to integrate play adventure into this meaningful and fulfilling life that we're creating.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is your challenge for this week. For those of you watching or listening, take a minute, literally set a timer. Could be for 5 minutes, could be for less, and just make a list of anything that sounds fun to you that you could conceive doing right now. Like, this is again where consistency is so much more important than intensity. Like, those of you that are more prone to intensity, like yourself, would maybe listen to this podcast and be like, I'm going to take up fly fishing tomorrow and I'm going to buy all the things because Ed fly fishes and that's what I'm going to do. And you may not be ready to do something like that, of that big commitment, right? So instead, maybe what goes on your list is like, reach out to someone I know about fly fishing, right?
And get something on the books.
Yeah, and go and just explore.
Or pickleball, or buy a coloring book, or buy a cheap Lego set.
Or research, like you were talking about whales, research a topic that is really interesting to you, that has nothing to do with your work or anything productive, right?
Yep.
And just make a list and try, I'm going to challenge you, try 3 of those things on that list this week.
Yeah.
And see how you feel. See what comes up from that experience.
Yeah. So we're Ed and Brittany. We're so thankful that you joined us today. We're excited to continue to be in your world weekly, helping you build a meaningful life and stay unstuck.
If you haven't already, please like and subscribe this. It helps this podcast reach more people. Share this with anyone you know that would be helpful, and we'll see you next week.